and Dwayne Wade right at the bottom of Anderson Varejao. Welcome to your Kodak moment, Anderson Varejao.
Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry!
And welcome back to the BSPN weekly radio show. This week we obviously got NBA playoffs going on. Max, what are the scores in the series looking like?
Okay, so in the West we got Golden State and the Clippers in 1-1. We have Houston and Utah. Houston's up 2-0. Portland and OKC. Portland's up 2-0. Denver and the Spurs, it's tied 1-1. And in the East we have the Bucks 2-0 up against the Pistons. Boston 2-0 against Indiana Pacers. The Sixers and the Nets tied 1-1, and the Raptors and Magic tied 1-1.
Max, I gotta ask you, for the first two playoff games for each series, what was your biggest surprise?
My biggest surprise was how well James Harden and Jason Tatum played in their respective games. Because James Harden, last week we talked about James Harden being a flop in the playoffs and disappearing, but he's really coming up. He's really coming up huge. He posted He
did post a triple-double. I think it was 25, 14, and 11.
That's like regular season James Harden numbers.
Yeah. Well, that's less than regular season James
exactly,
Harden
because he'd be putting up.
So it's really hard to say like he's underperforming when he's scoring 29 in the first game and 24-point triple-double in the second.
Exactly.
I mean, what the Jazz are doing, which is really interesting to me, is that they're really making everyone other than James Harden beat them.
Exactly.
And, I mean, the Jazz are supposedly the second best defense in the league.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe in it. Rudy Gobert does not match up well with James Harden.
Not
Rudy
at all.
Gobert tries to sink away into the paint every time. Can't really guard any type of guard. So you got to look like the most infamous Steph Curry clip was him just spinning Rudy Gobert around, and James Harden does the exact same thing. My biggest surprise was honestly the Brooklyn Nets or the Orlando Magic. I mean, the Magic game one, it's not sustainable. We saw that 2 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
The Raptors just blew them out like viciously.
Yeah.
And I mean, the Raptors are going to win that series. I think it's a nice story that the Magic have won a playoff game.
DJ Augustine coming up huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
I mean, I was watching that game and I was texting my friends and I was like, look, Kawhi's clutch. Raptors about to sweep. And then DJ Augustine hit that three and I was just like, shouldn't have said anything. But with the Nets, I think stealing one game is all they could have hoped to do in Philly. And doing that puts them in an excellent situation.
Yeah.
Like we talked last week about how the Nets are one of the teams that had the chance to upset. This is what they wanted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially to get the first game, and kind of punch the Sixers in the mouth. They did respond though.
Yeah.
They did respond next game. Ben Simmons putting up a triple-double.
But at the same time, Jared Dudley, not a great player, has been getting in Ben Simmons' head so heavily.
Yeah. Like,
the fact that Ben Simmons has gotten to the point where he's responding to this low-level player like Jared Dudley is absurd.
It just shows that he's actually in his head.
Yeah. I'm also amazed that the Blazers are 2-0 against the Thunder. The Thunder defense was supposed to be incredible going into this postseason. That was what they hung their hat on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, imagine them with Roberson, all of that. But it just hasn't showed up. If anything, the Blazers have been the dominant defensive and offensive team.
Yeah, well, the Blazers are definitely dominant on offense. I mean, Damian Lillard is...
Yeah, but I really thought Steven Adams would have a monster series. He hasn't done anything big so far. Dame and CJ have actually been locking down Russ on any possession they get on them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think, when Russ specifically is guarded by Dame, he has 0 assists and 6 turnovers in 2 games.
Yeah, that's
which
insane.
is on 15 matchups. Just wild.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Especially for Russell Westbrook, who is diming all over the place usually.
Yeah, and also claims to be that chip on his shoulder Pitbull type player, and is just getting his lunch money taken from him. I mean, you want to go to the series one by one and see what we have happening?
Sure.
Well, Clippers Warriors, great storyline. I mean, that 31-point comeback is getting to the point where the numbers 3 and 1 are just cursed for the Warriors.
Exactly. And you have, you have like two completely different teams going up against each other. Like the Warriors, they went out and they before DeMarcus Cousins was out for the rest of the playoffs, they had 5 All-Stars on their team.
Well, I feel like that's exaggerated a bit because Draymond is playing at a severely lowered level. So is Boogie. Clay is not having his best season. They're at the point where they have 3 All-Stars, which is the same as nearly any other team.
That's true, but it's still, the Warriors have big name players on their team. The Clippers, this is just a ragtag team of trade adders, G League free agent.
Look, 2 years ago in 2K, this team would have been like a 71 overall.
Yeah, if that.
Yeah, not great. Like Lou Will, everyone knew that was a real NBA player. People didn't know that about Montrezl Harrell.
People don't know that about Landry Shamet.
Patrick Beverley, Shai Gilgeous. I mean, go through the list. Ivica Zubac was a 61 overall in 2K.
Exactly.
Like
they're built from the ground up. I don't know how much more they can take from the Warriors, but definitely seeing them win a game, especially like the way they won that game, scoring 72 points in the last 20 minutes.
There's so much pressure on KD and Steph, especially now.
And just, the entire Warrior, all the Warriors now.
Yeah. I think Iguodala needs to play better. Iguodala is one of my favorite players in the NBA right now. He needs to do something more than what he is now. He's supposed to be their glue guy, but he hasn't really been able to play. The Hampton 5 lineup, which was so dominant for such a long time, has just kind of not been as usable because he's aging in a less graceful way than you would have thought. Like, his shot has fallen off. He can still move and jump in transition, but it's not the same way it used to be. Draymond is down. Draymond needs to be better.
Yeah.
Draymond needs to get to the point where he can hit an open shot. But it's just, to me, it's all on KD. KD has left both games early, either fouling out or, getting a tech and being ejected. And he can't do that. No. People always talk about how sensitive he is. Step 1 of getting that label away is now.
Well, hey BSPN, what do you think about 538 calling KD a tier 2 player?
Okay, so it wasn't a tier 2. There was alpha, betas, and gammas. So alpha players are the elite of the elite, most impact on winning. Beta second, gamma third. They had Giannis, Harden, LeBron, AD, Steph all listed as alphas. They have KD listed as a beta. I think the main reason for that is that he's not as impactful to winning on the Warriors as Steph is. And KD, you put him anywhere and he's going to help you win games. Absolutely, but he is not that system. He's just a throw-in. He's like you look at the early 2000s Lakers. You could have, put T-Mac instead of Kobe. I love Kobe. I love T-Mac. That team was built around Shaq being so dominant in the post and being so dominant as an inside presence to get everyone else going. Yeah. Look at who else is a good example. Early 2010 Heat. 2011 it was built around Wade, but from then on, the next 3 years, it was built around LeBron and his passing ability and turning everyone else into a shooter. Or Wade would still get his occasional ISO, but he had to learn how to shoot threes at a higher clip. Bosh changed his entire game. It's all about that. At that point, at that moment, Wade was a beta, but he's just a very, very good beta. Yeah. And that's the same thing with KD now. I also think 538 is exaggerating a bit when they say that KD is a
little
beta.
Bit, yeah.
Yeah. But moving back to playoffs.
Let's see. So we talked about
Do you think the Clippers win another game in the series?
I don't. Just because I think we saw what they could do when they came back to win.
Yeah.
But they also got themselves into the.
Landry Shamet is cold-blooded.
Yeah, that is true. But I don't think this team I think the Warriors are relaxing a little bit.
Oh no, they definitely are losing track of everything.
Just because
they are 2004 level Lakers right now.
Yeah, because this is not the first time we've seen the Warriors do this in the playoffs and in the regular season.
But the scary thing about this now for Warriors fans is that, I mean, it's coming at a bad time. KD can just dip. I mean, Clay's gonna stay probably. Draymond is showing his age to the point that if KD leaves, you're probably not a championship contender anymore unless you retool. It's not looking great for them.
No,
and
this is definitely we're definitely nearing the end of the.
I mean, absolutely.
Of the dynasty.
KD leaves, dynasty's over.
Do you think the Warriors win the finals?
If they make it to the finals, absolutely.
Really?
I think the Bucks have the skill, but they don't have the experience to beat them. If that makes sense.
That's true.
I think Brogdon is still going to be kind of hurt. I am not a big fan of the Celtics. I don't think they're going to do that.
I don't think the Celtics make the finals.
Yeah, I don't even think the Celtics make the conference finals because they got to go against the Bucks in round 2. I think despite what the Raptors did in Game 1 against the Magic, Kawhi's still a dominant force. Pascal Siakam played well. I mean, it was just Kyle Lowry laying an egg.
Mm. Which he can't do.
He absolutely cannot.
Because he doesn't. He's also not. He's Kyle Lowry. He needs to.
Brian Windhorst had a report that Kawhi is leaving no matter what. Most of the NBA believes Kawhi is leaving no matter what.
Where does he go?
Probably the Clippers. I mean, that's been the rumored landing spot for a long time. In theory, if the Warriors dumped as much salary as they possibly could, they could bring him home, which I think he would be up for. But I don't think the Warriors will be able to dump salary.
I don't think Kawhi goes to the Warriors.
I think Kawhi would go to the Warriors.
I don't.
Yeah, I mean he grew up in the San Francisco area. Like he went to San Diego College, San Diego University. That's his home, and he does want to go home. So I think it's distinctly possible that he goes there.
I think it's more possible that he goes to the Clippers just because
I think the Clippers, if he leaves, is the number one option.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like an 80% chance he goes to the Clippers. I'm just saying, if the Warriors are willing to dump salary, then he would definitely give them a meeting, and he could actually think about going there.
Yeah, it's a possibility for sure. Yeah. All right, let's talk about
Rockets Jazz. Rockets are my single least favorite team in the entire NBA. I hate the way James Harden plays so much. It's not fun for me. It's not why I love basketball. But I gotta give him as much as it can win games. I think James Harden's gonna flame out again. I mean, last year's playoffs he started with a 44 bomb that he just dropped on the Wolves.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he does a lot, I guess, but he is playing below his season standards.
Right, but he's still he's still bullying the Jazz.
Maybe. Well, he's not bullying the Jazz as much as the Jazz are forcing him to give it up to his teammates who are making the right decision.
But when James Harden has the ball,
it's the same effect as LeBron had in the earlier playoffs when he was still in his prime.
But it's like with James Harden, when James Harden has the ball, no one on the Jazz is going to be able to guard him one-on-one. And we've seen that.
I think so. Maybe not for long stretches. I think losing Dante Exum was huge for the Jazz.
Oh, yeah, that was huge.
Because last season, he was one of the few players that they could just throw in and would give Harden trouble.
Mm.
I know it was a 4-1 series last year between the Jazz and the Rockets. I think the Rockets are going to be trying to get out of this round as quick as possible, even if it means overplaying some of their players. Because if they can get the full sweep and then go up against the Warriors, who are looking weak in the second round, I think they take that any day of the week. I do not think the Jazz are as good as, a lot of people were saying at the start of the season with 3 seed, second, third best team in the West. I didn't see it happening. Sixth seed is also not where I would have put them, though. I would have put them like 5-ish. But it's not. This season is kind of a failure. Going off of what last season was, they didn't make any decent acquisitions. They couldn't really.
Yeah,
Grayson Allen has been kind of disappointing, despite the 40-point game he had at the end of the season. It hasn't worked out for the Jazz.
Yeah, and it's funny because last week we were all about the Jazz beating the Rockets.
Yeah. I still think it's possible that, look, Utah is a hellish place to play.
That is true.
I think there's a chance that they just win both games and that we go and have this series go to 6 or 7.
But I also see James Harden continue, because maybe this is the Rockets' year. Maybe this is Chris Paul's year to actually, Chris Paul and James Harden's year to show up in the playoffs and show that they're actually clutch performers.
Well, I mean, they always start
season.
off the playoffs well. It's once they get farther in. Like the Spurs series that James Harden is mocked for so heavily was a second round. Was it a second round? Yeah, it was a second round series.
Mm-hmm.
Like where Harden just fell apart. But like third through fifth game of that series was just James Harden falling apart.
But in terms of this series, I could see a sweep.
I could too. It's not my most likely sweep though.
Yeah.
I think the Bucks are just destroying the Pistons heavily.
Yeah. We'll talk about it.
Which just talks about how much of a dominant force Giannis is. Giannis is superhuman.
Yeah, but we knew that, and it's like seeing him do this in the playoffs is just
it's what we expected and hoped for.
Yeah,
and it's great to see.
Yeah, he's exceeded every expectation that has been put on. I think it's
amazing that a foreign Euro player is going to be the face of the league.
Yeah, if he's not already.
The last time that happened was the 2 years after Jordan's first retirement with Hakeem. That's it. Like never. There's no other time that a Euro player has been or a non-American player has been the best player in the league.
And he's still like 23.
Yeah. I mean, it's all going to come down to what the Bucks can do. I think we're at the point where Chris Middleton has become overrated. We talked about this a little before, but people are talking about how he can get you this, like he's a high teen scorer that's efficient. Yeah, he's a high teen scorer who's efficient. I don't think you want to give Chris Middleton a max.
No.
No,
definitely not.
You want to get him for 25?
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
If that.
Yeah, it's just it's confusing to me how people think that Chris Middleton, because he got his first All-Star nod, is now a perennial All-Star. Like he doesn't have the stats of an All-Star. He just has the record of the best team in the league, and he's the second best player on that team. Arguable because Bledsoe has had a bounce back year after the disgusting playoff performance he had.
Yeah. Let's talk about Portland and OKC.
I had OKC going to the conference finals just because I didn't see anyone else getting in front of them. I mean, look, Thunder defense has not shown up at all.
No, it is not.
Paul George, I think he's torn something. I think it could be a labrum, which would be bad. But his shooting is just it's not working.
It's not working at all.
Yeah, it's like severely fallen off.
And Dame and CJ are just punching them in the mouth.
Yeah, they're not only are they outscoring them, they're locking them up too.
They're just playing much more aggressively.
Yep.
It looks every time they're on the floor, it looks like they want it much more than Thunder do.
Cantor, as much as I hate him and think he's not a good player, can have a positive influence when he scores 20 and has 11 rebounds, with 4 of them being offensive.
And that was the Enes Kanter we saw last season, and a little bit of, at the beginning of the season on the Knicks.
Well, yes and no, but that was while he had Porzingis next to him, which changed a lot of matchups.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
But we know, we know Enes Kanter, when given the opportunity, can.
Also, what a revenge game for Kanter.
Yeah.
Like, the Thunder traded Kanter for Melo, who isn't even on the team anymore, who they got rid of. I mean, they got Dennis Schroeder out of it. They gave up their pick. I'm still confused how the going price for Dennis Schroeder was $26 million of dead cap with a first.
It's ridiculous.
But if that was the case, I think nearly any team would have done it. Can you imagine the Rockets would have just flipped Ryan Anderson and their first for Dennis Schroeder? They'd be in a much better position now.
Yeah, because Ryan Anderson's
they threw away anyway to the Suns for Marquise Chris and Brandon Knight. But it's concerning. I think the Rockets championship window is closing really quickly.
the Rockets.
Yeah, it's if they don't win a championship this year, next year it's over. They're not winning a championship.
Because Chris Paul's also going to start.
Look, Chris Paul in his last 2 years of that contract is going to be one of the worst contracts in the league. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
He is already on one of the worst contracts in the league, in my opinion. John Wall is the single worst contract in the league. Chris Paul is maybe 5 or 6. He's not bringing to the table what he used to.
Mm-hmm.
The great thing about the Rockets last year was how James Harden could play off the ball, so he'd be, more rested going into everything. He's been playing more on the ball this year. Chris Paul's value has decreased somehow. After how great he was for that offense, Chris Paul just made it worse by existing.
Yeah.
It's not a good sign for the Rockets. But, sorry, going back to Thunder and Blazers, the Blazers could go out of this with a sweep, which no one would have said that going into it.
Yeah, no
People
one.
were really high on the Thunder, and now it's just looking like they're going to keep doing what they're doing. Russell Westbrook has not made it out of the first round since KD left. And you have Paul George, who definitely isn't a KD, but who is playing at a high level. You have more help off the bench than you used to. Like, what's the excuse?
There is none.
Exactly.
It's just that they don't want it as badly as the Blazers do. Or at least they don't look like they want it.
I mean, I feel like that's kind of a cliche that people use, but I think it's actually true here.
Well, yeah, no, of course it's a cliche, but it's like Dame and CJ are, and, all the Blazers.
Look, they did it for Jennifer. They won a playoff game for Jennifer.
Exactly.
But it's just, it's a bad situation for the Thunder. Like, should they look to trade Russell Westbrook? I mean, he sells tickets more than anything, but I think Paul George and Russ, I'm not a big fan of this team at all.
No.
Steven Adams needs to be better. They need Andre Roberson back. How he missed a whole year with an injury that was supposed to be a 4-month injury is beside me. But it's not looking good for them.
No, it's not.
Like,
not at all.
Where do they go? They didn't have a championship window with this team, and now it's already gone.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that the Spurs took a game.
Yeah,
like
I did
they
too.
nearly took 2. Jamal Murray saved the Nuggets. Nikola Jokic has been incredibly disappointing.
So and he just looks tired.
Yeah. Shout out to the guy who called in last week and said that the Nuggets were big time and that LaMarcus Aldridge sucked. We've seen the opposite.
The exact opposite, which we talked about if Nick is listening.
Yeah. Fucking call out. But the Nuggets have not been playing well. And now that they're 1-1 leaving home court, San Antonio is a difficult place to play.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Malone has been outcoached so far. Gary Harris and Jamal Murray have been the 2 deciding factors. Like, have been the 2 best players for the Nuggets this playoff. Well, these past 2 games.
Yeah.
Nikola Jokic has not been good. People were talking about, he had a triple-double his first game. He had 10 points. You can't be a high-impact player like that and have 10 points.
Yeah.
That's not how you win games.
And he's just not in shape.
Yeah, exactly.
He's not in playoff shape.
I said the exact thing last week.
Exactly.
He can't guard the pick and roll the entire game. Derek White was going after him.
Mm-hmm.
Bryn Forbes was going after him. Like, Patty Mills, when the fossilized Patty Mills can beat you off the dribble so easily, it just doesn't look good.
No.
And it's not a good look. I've said this before. Nikola Jokic may be incredibly impactful for the Nuggets winning and may be one of the best centers in the league. I can't put him over Karl Anthony Towns. Karl Anthony Towns is the better individual player because he's learned how to play defense. Nikola Jokic can't jump a foot in the air.
No.
He's
Yeah,
just
you're right.
he's a cerebral player, which is good, but he can't move.
Yeah.
He just can't. And when it comes down to that, this league, you need athleticism
Mm-hmm.
to be one of the best. And it's incredibly inspirational that he can be such a horrible athlete and be worth a max contract and be a great young player. But until he learns how to move and lose, I think most of his weight at this point is still fat. Once he turns that body more into muscle, which he really has to. I'm not sure what his off-season workout has been.
It needs to change.
It does.
Or it needs to start if he has
exactly, because he needs to move.
Yeah, he needs to be because he's still young also.
Yeah, but he's just it's painful to me how little he can move at this point.
Yeah.
You want to move to the East?
Yeah, let's move to the East. Let's start with, well, we'll start with the Bucks and Pistons.
This series is already over.
Yeah, this series
at
was
this
over
point,
before it
the
began.
only thing we're worried about is that Giannis doesn't get injured.
Knock wood. But it's like also the other thing is like we're also gonna get to see Giannis's conditioning because he's carrying the load.
Yeah.
Most of the load every single game for the Bucks, and he's the number one guy, and obviously he's a superstar, but he's still young. He hasn't had a lot of playoff experience. He hasn't had a lot of playoff experience.
He had 7 games last year, and 4 of them were losses. So.
Yeah. So it's like, and like they're definitely going to get more than 7 games.
Yeah.
But it's because if Giannis starts to crumble, under the pressure or under.
I don't think it'll be pressure as much as it'll be injuries.
He
played
just like
something like
overworking.
32 minutes per game in the regular season.
Exactly.
He's going to be playing 39. I think he's ready for that. I'm worried that with the whole ankle thing. I mean, not Blake Griffin. He's not even playing this series. Andre Drummond nearly undercut him during something, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah, because if Giannis gets hurt, that would be hard. That's heartbreaking for the Bucks and just the NBA.
Yeah.
It's like.
Giannis
is.
I feel like
nobody like Giannis.
Yeah, I feel like this series is the single least interesting one.
Just because,
I mean, but on the topic of injury-prone big men, Sixers lost game 1.
Yeah, which was huge.
Joel Embiid is not looking remotely healthy. Even if they make it past the first round, I do not trust the Sixers in the second round.
No, because also this is the same thing with Giannis. Like, not the same thing with Giannis, but the same thing we just talked about is conditioning.
Here's the big thing for me though. Giannis knows how to fall. Every time Embiid falls after dunking
he's like
the
Derrick
ball,
Rose.
I'm convinced he's going to break his leg again. I mean, one of the biggest plays he had all season was that putback jam on the Cavs. When he fell on that, he landed exclusively on his left ankle, and he slid himself backwards. That's bad.
Yeah.
And the fact that the Sixers trainers have done nothing to try and change it amazes me. Like, I understand he's a violent dunker, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just this is your franchise centerpiece. This is like I think you will need to decide between Ben Simmons or Joel Embiid at some point in the future.
And I think that at least if I were them, I would definitely go with Ben Simmons.
Really?
Yeah.
I'd go with the opposite.
You go with Joel Embiid?
Look, I think if you can trade Ben Simmons 1-for-1 this offseason for Anthony Davis and get some sort of information that Anthony Davis will at least consider re-signing or give it like a good chance, won't like immediately do the thing that like, well, we haven't had a situation where someone's been traded and then left yet. Well, we had Andre Iguodala, but Andre Iguodala said he would commit to it. I think you can compare those. You have a monstrous front court, like to the point that no one's scoring inside, just like what Mitchell Robinson and Anthony Davis were when we talked about this 2 weeks ago, except better, because Joel Embiid is a better defensive player than Mitchell Robinson, as much as you love him.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's my guy.
And then you have Jimmy Butler, who, as much as I think he's an overrated defender, he can.
No, he can lock.
Yeah, he can lock down on the perimeter. So you have that pairing of defensive players. You let Tobias Harris walk. You maybe you can convince the Pelicans to give you Drew Holiday potentially as well, and then you just throw in pieces.
I don't think I think that's too much for the Pelicans to trade.
I know, but like if you can do Ben Simmons and 2 firsts for AD and Drew Holiday, which I think is possible.
That would be a really good trade.
And I mean, it'll mean that the Sixers can't build as much and that their window is now, but now is a good time to have a window. After this offseason, the league's kind of going to be in chaos.
Yeah.
Just because we won't know who's going where, what's happening.
Yeah, and it's some of the biggest free agent names. Some of the biggest free agent names that we've seen in a while.
Yeah, I think it's just a monstrous pairing, and I think with Ben Simmons, you really need to commit all into shooters. And even then, Jared Dudley said, in transition, he's an amazing player.
But get him into half court and he's average.
Exactly. And it's gotten to that point where Giannis, people gave him shit for not being able to shoot. Giannis has developed a shot to the point that he'll actually shoot it, and that you are risking 3 points when you leave him open. Ben Simmons, you're not risking anything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's true.
And then I don't think D'Lo is the best player on the Nets, being honest.
Who do you think it is?
Dinwiddie.
Really?
Dinwiddie is not only the leader of that team, but the most impactful player on that team. D'Lo may be the scorer, maybe all of that. That doesn't mean Dinwiddie doesn't score. Dinwiddie is a better passer. Dinwiddie is a better decision maker. Dinwiddie is by a large margin the better defender. I mean, I think D'Lo can be great moving forward, but he really needs to commit to when he needs to. It's the whole thing it always was, the mental aspect.
Yeah.
He needs to decide when he's going to be he needs to switch more fluidly between passing and shooting. And at this point, he can't decide whether he's a score-first guard or a pass-first guard. And it's going to come down to that. I have a lot of trust in Karis LeVert. I think his ability set is nice moving forward. I think it can coexist with D'Lo or Dinwiddie. Or if they get someone in free agency, the Nets have a good situation as long as they don't overdo something.
Yeah.
They're in a great spot, and they could win this playoff series.
Yeah,
they play really well at home. If they can win both games at home, I don't think the Sixers have any chance whatsoever.
Yeah, no.
And that would be a colossal failure for the Sixers, and they could lose everything. They could, not everything as in Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, but they could lose Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris.
They very well could lose Jimmy Butler.
Yeah. On the topic of New York sports teams quickly, I do want to talk about your Knicks for a second.
Okay.
I have a report that not only is Alonzo Trier kind of not fun to be around, but people are saying, well, my source is saying that it's very unlikely he'll be with the team next year.
Really?
Because the Knicks will need to decline his team option. And even then, he'll probably only get a minimum deal. And there's no way he wants to wait around for the Knicks to give him another deal, if that's even possible. On the other hand, Knicks are probably bringing back DeAndre Jordan, which I'm not a fan of.
I am a fan of that.
Their defensive rating with DeAndre Jordan on the floor was 120.3. For some measure, that would make them the single worst defensive team in the past decade. And it's not like it's a tiny sample size. He played like 20-something games for them.
That's true. But, it was also like I feel like he came into it, knowing that this season, like...
At this point, he is purely an offensive player.
Right. And I think that's what the Knicks need.
I don't at all. I think... And
also I think Mitchell Robinson is going to be... DeAndre Jordan's going to be a great mentor to Mitchell Robinson.
I think he already was that. You don't need to keep him around again. It's like...
But I feel like DeAndre Jordan is also a good locker room guy.
Maybe, but I'm worried about committing how much money it'll be. If it's a minimum, sure.
I don't think it's going to be minimum.
Exactly, but if it's your room exception, that's a bad deal. Giving DeAndre Jordan $5 million this year is not worth it. And I know he's on, 14, 15, or it's way more, right?
Yeah, it's like I think like
It's
20,
19. Yeah,
29, yeah, 19 or 20.
yeah. It's too much for a center who can't play defense anymore.
Yeah. No, he's definitely. I also don't think DeAndre Jordan is expecting to get close to close to his last contract. But
Yep.
and he also could be. He also could take a minimum.
He should,
He
in
should.
my opinion.
But I also do see him taking it because he knows what the Knicks are trying to do, and he's a fan of it, and he's a fan of David Fizdale, and
yeah.
he likes all the guys like him. He's a good locker room guy, and he's like we don't want to discredit his skill too much because he can put up numbers. Maybe definitely not the numbers that he used to put up. He's definitely not.
Yeah.
He's definitely not the player he was on the Clippers. At all.
Yeah.
But he still is. He still is a big body.
I
He
would have
still is a
rather
force
kept
in the
Wesley
paint.
Matthews than DeAndre Jordan. I think DeAndre Jordan is just being kept around for Kevin Durant's sake. That's it. Wesley Matthews is the better player.
Yeah, but then but also because the Knicks have a lot of small forwards, and a lot of guys like,
But Wesley Matthews is a shooting guard.
right. But the Knicks played him at small forward when we had Tim Hardaway.
The Knicks
Or
are
not when
doing
we had Tim Hardaway.
too much stuff.
But I think they're doing good stuff. Like
They're doing quite significantly better than they were before.
yeah, because the Knicks have been known to do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of moving, a lot of players coming in, players leaving, front office leaving, front office coming in, coaches. But I think David Fizdale is the main reason why the Knicks are on the up. Like
I know we just talked about Ben Simmons and 2 firsts for AD and Drew Holiday. What do you think the Knicks could throw in to get Drew Holiday and an Anthony Davis Zion swap? Frank? Is Frank all it takes?
Frank. Damn, I don't know.
I think you hold on to Dot as much as you possibly can.
Yeah, I honestly think your two untouchables right now for the Knicks
Or Mitch and Dot for me.
Yeah, exactly.
I think you can throw in Knox and they'd take it.
I'm only worried about throwing in Knox just because I want to see one more year. I want to see him with another year under his belt. I want because rookie year
Look, I was a huge supporter of Kevin Knox going into the draft. I was praying that he would fall to 20th, but he's had a really, really underwhelming year.
That's true. But also Kevin Knox with Kevin Durant.
That just means less minutes and less touches to me. That doesn't mean, he'll have a mentor. That just means he won't have as much space to grow.
Who, Kevin Knox?
Yeah. That's all it means to me. You get diminishing returns from the more good players you have on your roster.
Yeah, but David Fizdale knows how to plug in young guys and knows how
Maybe, but David Fizdale, last time he was in a winning situation, I'm not counting the Memphis Grizzlies that everyone knew were like fakers. I'm counting the Heat, and he was an assistant there. And at that point, he saw, hey, we just need role players. And if Kevin Knox can net you another star, and you can go into the season with Kyrie, Drew, KD at the 3, Anthony Davis at the 4, and then Mitch at the 5, and then you can have Damian Dotson coming off the bench, that's the perfect situation.
Yeah.
Because Damian Dotson is a role player who knows his role. Mitchell Robinson is a role player who knows his role. You can say he might be a star, but it'll be the Tyson Chandler type star. Like the one that isn't really big numbers. Anthony Davis will be willing to take less touches. That team just gels way more than having Kevin Knox, who is also a score-first player and a scorer. He's going to need the ball in his hands. He's not gonna fit into that team if it comes around.
That's true.
And I'm not sure he can play the 2-guard spot.
No, he can't.
Yeah.
I at least don't think he can.
Well, we got 2 more series to talk about. We got Pacers, Celtics, and Raptors Magic. Which one do you want?
I feel like we can get the Raptors Magic one out of the way. Just,
it's easy to get out of the way.
just because, like
Magic overperformed for game one. This
overperformed.
series is nearly over already.
But I think the fact that they won a game in the playoffs is
Hopefully that was Kyle Lowry's just crap game.
Yeah.
And he'll be fine for the rest of the playoffs.
Yeah, I think the Raptors take it in 5.
Yeah.
Orlando,
absolutely.
If Orlando wins another game, though, that would be.
It'll be the same way that the Raptors looked last year.
Yeah.
Where they went up against the Wizards 1-6, and the Wizards said, and I quote, "We'd rather have to play the Raptors than the Celtics," when the Celtics were the 2 seed and the Raptors were the 1 seed. I mean, the Raptors. There's the whole legacy of failure bit that very well could be true soon. I mean, I love Pascal Siakam. He's not a player you can build your franchise around.
No, not at all.
Kyle Lowry is getting worse and worse by the year. And you have Fred VanVleet to replace him. But you look around this team, Marc Gasol's pretty old. I mean, you got... Did they trade... Yeah, they have Norman Powell. They traded DeLon Wright for Marc Gasol. They, have pieces. They have OG Anunoby, but they don't really have anyone transformational, which is tragic for them because Kawhi very certain... Well, there's a big chance that Kawhi could leave.
Yeah.
No matter how far they make it. For him to stay, I think you need to make the finals.
Yeah, which is going to be tough.
Yeah.
It's going to be really
Especially
tough.
in an Eastern Conference that's so quickly become incredibly top-heavy and incredibly challenging.
Yeah.
And no, it's not because of LeBron.
Not at all.
It's because the seeds were already there, and now there's teams that think they can win.
Mm-hmm.
I think at most, the team that took a chance because LeBron left was the Raptors. Every other team has just been building. The Sixers were going to add to Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
The Celtics were just going to try and get better. I mean, last year, they were already a game, 13 minutes away from throwing LeBron away from his streak. A streak that died anyway this season. And everyone knew that the Bucks were untapped potential in a team. The fact that they got a good coach is super impactful.
Yeah.
And the fact that they got a coach that uses guard depth and knows how to use one of the most dominant players we have in the league or have had in the league in the past 15 years is important. Jake Kidd was one of my favorite players of all time. He was probably my mom's favorite player of all time. Only beaten by Allen Iverson. And he was a tragically horrible coach.
Yeah, he was really bad.
Yeah. All right, we do have the Celtics and Pacers, though.
This is a surprise.
Yeah, I mean...
last week we were talking, we were like, I at least did not expect the Celtics to play like this. I knew...
They played the way I expected in the first half of the first game, and then immediately fell back to, what we expect, what we wanted them to be all season. They didn't even win 50 games this season, which is absurd to me.
Right. But it's like Kyrie, we knew Kyrie was going to ball, but he's really balling.
Yeah.
And you have Jason Tatum coming up clutch.
Jason Tatum went from taking contested mid-range jumpers and bricking them to taking mid-range contested jumpers and hitting them and then also taking threes when he has that opportunity.
Right. So it's like the shots are now falling and he's getting more confident in his shot and he's taking farther shots. And he's coming into his own a little bit in this series.
Yeah, I think.
And it's also the Pacers don't really have a big time player. They don't have, if you're down by 2 with 40 seconds left.
Because you can't give it to a big man at that point.
Yeah.
And even then, Miles Turner is not the best offensive player.
No, he's not.
He brings his value on the defensive end.
Especially against Al Horford. Or, even Aaron Baines.
Well, Aaron Baines, the matchup is pretty clear in Miles Turner's favor.
Right,
Al Horford is the same problem as it was with Joel Embiid last year's playoffs. If the rim protector needs to go out to guard someone in the perimeter, their value is cut.
Yeah.
It's the same reason why the Jazz could couldn't go so well against a team like the Thunder or whatever, but will come up short against any team that's perimeter centric.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's like Boston could sweep.
Boston could sweep.
I see.
So we'd have 2 sweeps happening in the same quarter of the bracket.
And then we would have
And then every
Boston
other
versus Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Which would be a
I
very.
would still take Milwaukee in that series.
Yeah. Right now I would too, but you know,
look,
there's still 2 more
I
games
know
left in the
I
first
know
play-
no
in the-
team has someone to deal with Giannis, but the Celtics really don't have anyone to deal with Giannis.
Yeah, no.
Like you look at
Gordon
their wing
Hayward.
depth, Gordon Hayward can't do anything against them.
Yeah, no.
Like,
Jalen Brown. no.
Jalen Brown can't.
Jason
Jason
Tatum.
Tatum can't. Al Horford, you try it. Al Horford's gonna get dunked on all day and all night.
Yeah, he's gonna get bodied.
Yeah.
The
I
only
mean,
person
Aaron
that could-
Baines is the strongest body that could do it, but Aaron Baines doesn't have the foot speed to keep up with Giannis.
Yeah, no. And
It's just
they really need Marcus Smart.
and
But even Marcus Smart
couldn't do anything.
But you know, he's
It comes down to big men usually can't have the biggest impact because they can't make their own shot.
yeah.
They're gonna have Brogdon back by that series, I think. Bledsoe's been playing great.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Middleton, as much as I do think he's slightly overrated, is still a very good player. I mean, Kyrie isn't a great defensive player, but you got to look around at the roster. Jaylen Brown, very good defensive player, hasn't had the offensive season you would want from him, to the point that he's not a net negative, but compared to the rest of the team, he kind of is.
Yeah.
Jason Tatum, shot maker, you can say two-way player, but that's not where he makes his money. It's by taking shots. I mean, this team, which used to be this sort of underdog, grit and grind defensive team, is now a score-first team that doesn't really defend as well as you would hope.
Yeah.
It's concerning for the Celtics still for me. I think Kyrie leaving would be both a gift and a curse for them. I think you're gonna have to pay Terry Rozier, which I am not a fan of.
Yeah, no, I'm not a fan of that either. But
They kind of have to.
They have
wouldn't
to.
have any other point guard options unless you still believe that Marcus Smart can play the point guard, which
I don't think you.
I think he can, but not full time. Like, he definitely needs someone else there.
Yeah.
It's not a good situation for the Celtics.
No,
Like-
they're definitely not going to be as dominant next year.
No, they're also not as powerful this year.
Right, that's
Like-
true. But it's like, you know, they're definitely not going to be a 4 seed next year.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
Also, I want to talk Anthony Davis quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Lakers have the 4th best offer for Anthony Davis.
Which
I
is
think
what?
the Celtics, the Clippers, and the Knicks all have better offers for Anthony Davis than the Lakers do. The Lakers could throw the same offer that they threw at the trade deadline with literally all their young players and 2 first-round picks, and I would still take a different offer. I think the Clippers could have an excellent offer. They could throw in Lou Will along with Landry Shamet, Ivica Zubac, and a first, and that'd be an incredible deal. Or they could put Shai Gilgeous in there instead of one of those other 2 young players, and it would be a fair deal for both teams. And I think you get more value out of it because David Griffin, now GM of the Pelicans, said he wants a good veteran that can bring a winning mentality to a rebuilding team,
Mm-hmm.
which Lou Will can do, and young talent. Like, at least one player who you think has potential to be a star. I don't think any of those 3 really has a potential to be the star, but I do think that all 3 of them combine to make an excellent team.
Yeah.
Shai Gilgeous and Landry Shamet make up an incredibly good young backcourt,
Mm-hmm.
and Ivica Zubac, I still don't understand why the Lakers traded him. Moving on, the Celtics offer Al Horford, Jason Tatum, and 2 of their first-round picks this year. That's also a better offer, in my opinion. I mean, you got Jason Tatum, who I think he's overrated. I think he's kind of been a disappointment this season. I also think people overrate how much a score-first player can have an impact, like a score-first wing who doesn't do much other than score,
Mm-hmm.
which is what Andrew Wiggins is. I think people overrate what type of impact that player can have. Like, it's not the early 2000s where, like, that's what it was. It was wings who can give you 30 any night. It's just not that way anymore. And you gotta look around. You get a veteran like who always has been winning in Al Horford, along with the young players, with Jason Tatum. Maybe they could throw in Terry Rozier if they're convinced Kyrie can resign. That's the only situation they make a trade for Anthony Davis is if Kyrie resigns.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at the Knicks, Zion and a first next year, Zion and Frank. I mean, I'm not a big fan of Frank. They could also throw in Alonzo Trier. They got options there.
Yeah.
And that's a trade that I would also like more than the Lakers just throwing everyone they have, especially because we're not entirely sure about Brandon Ingram or about Lonzo Ball. Lonzo Ball has not played more than 50 games in a season.
Yeah, I know.
It's like...
And Brandon Ingram, that's disappointing.
Also, I mean, we could talk my mock draft if you wanted to.
You want to? Sure.
We could. I have the Lakers just taking best player available, which I remember correctly was a 3-and-D forward. I'm sorry, it's like I did this 2 weeks ago or something. It only went up today because technical difficulties. But I mean, we got Zion going first. Then it's RJ second because the Cavs have the pick.
Mm-hmm.
Ja third. I have Kobe White going fourth.
Really?
Because the Bulls need a point guard. That's their only position of need, and Kobe White fits that roster so well. There's a good chance they could trade down to get Kobe White, but I'm not going to attempt to simulate trades.
Mm-hmm.
Kobe White is perfect for the Bulls. More perfect for the Bulls, in fact, than Ja Morant is, who goes to the Suns at 3. It's like... It's confusing to me how people think that you can just throw talent together and say, we're done, and say, there we go.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not looking great for everything there.
Yeah.
Like, if the Bulls had not made that trade for Otto Porter, I would probably have them taking DeAndre Hunter. I also have Jarrett Culver falling to the Pelicans.
Really?
Just because Jarrett Culver doesn't fit anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, who needs a shooting guard? Like, look around. The Wizards don't need one. I mean, the Bulls don't need one. They got Levine. Suns obviously don't need one.
Yeah, they definitely don't need one.
The Cavs aren't going to take Jarrett Culver over RJ Barrett.
Yeah, no.
And obviously the Knicks aren't going to pick him with the first pick. Yeah. So it's just it's not an excellent situation there for Jarrett Culver in this draft. He's still going to go top 10, undeniably. I have DeAndre Hunter going to the Wizards just because they're going to take best player available. Mm-hmm. DeAndre Hunter can play either forward slot, in my opinion, or he can play the center. He can play small ball 5 on occasion.
Mm-hmm.
And they got Bobby Portis, who's going to be there, which is going to make a frightening defensive pairing.
Yeah.
You got, look, I have a lot of strange picks. I have Jackson Hayes going to the Hawks with their second first-round pick, second lottery pick, just because I think John Collins is a 4. I have them taking Cam Reddish at, would this be 5?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have them taking Cam Reddish there just because he may have been a disappointment, but his shooting fits that team so well, and the potential is certainly there as a high-volume shooter. And that's what the Hawks want. Yeah. And Trae Young's playmaking could definitely get that out of him.
Exactly.
It's just you look around, like the mock draft. It definitely has some controversial picks. I have Rui Hachimura falling to 14 to the Celtics, just because it doesn't really make sense for him to go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I have Bobo going to the Hornets. I think the Hornets will just go highest potential because why not?
Mm-hmm.
With Kemba potentially leaving, you just got to go for whatever the best player available is, and they can't keep drafting wings.
Yeah, no.
And at that point, that's probably what they would go. The point guards would be depleted by that point, and I don't think they want a power forward, just because I think it doesn't really fit what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
So going center and going Bobo, who looked like a unicorn in his early time with Oregon, like legitimately looked unicorn-like.
Yeah.
They take him. He can go in transition. He can do a lot of things. If Kemba stays, that's a great pick and roll. Potentially Bobo can post up and Kemba can finally play off ball a little.
Yeah.
But it's just a good pairing there. I haven't memorized all of the draft as is. I think I would have liked Nasir Little going to the Timberwolves,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think I had that happening. I think I had him going to the Heat, which is a perfect pairing
Yeah.
because the Heat love those, big-bodied defensive players. It's just, look, comment on the Insta where the draft will be posted later today.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions about it?
Questions if you disagree with something.
Yeah, I mean, I will defend anything. Tag me in it if you want. I'm new Thilo. But it's all about best fit for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this draft is so weak that after one with Zion, it's all about best fit. Zion is the only pick that is cemented
Yeah.
to me. Should I take football 5?
You want to take it?
All right. Russell Wilson signed his extension.
Got paid.
It's a sad day for Giants fans. It's also potentially a sad day for Seahawks fans. 4 years, 140. That's an NBA contract given to an NFL player, which is not something I thought I'd be saying.
No.
But he definitely held out. He got what he wanted. The Seahawks really don't have that much wiggle room now. And the Giants are going to have to go quarterback at 17 probably. There's a few drafts saying that Daniel Jones will go at 6. I said this on Facebook a few months ago maybe, that if we take Daniel Jones, I will eat shards of glass. That still stands on the table. If we take Daniel Jones at 6, I can't deal with that. I mean, Daniel Jones is not. In my mock draft, I have him going 32 to the Patriots. He's not the type of player that the Giants need.
Yeah.
The Giants need a smart, calculated, high potential quarterback, and they need pass rushers.
Mm-hmm.
So look, the NFL is super interesting right now. We got a good amount of player movement, and we got a situation where, everyone thought the Patriots would be gone. The loss of Gronk is huge. The Patriots just signed Demaryius Thomas, coming off an ACL tear though. So he's maybe a one down player.
Mm-hmm.
You bring it on third down or bring it on first down for a long shot or a slant route. There's not much else there.
Yeah.
But I gotta say the Texans trading for him at the deadline this past year seems to have been a huge mistake, because I think they gave up a quality it was either a 5th or a 3rd for Demaryius Thomas, which was not good. Like, I know you want to get Deshaun Watson more options, and you want to get a number 2 to Hopkins, but that's not how you do it.
Yeah, no.
There's a lot of interesting storylines now. The schedules got released. Look, the Browns got 4 primetime games.
Because the Browns are going to be good.
Browns can either be great or they could fall flat on their face.
But I think they have a much higher chance of being great.
Yeah. I mean, it comes down to egos. It comes down to how much do we trust Baker Mayfield as a second-year quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
It also comes down to how much do we trust Freddie Kitchens as a first-year head coach. I mean, John Dorsey is maybe one of the best executives in the league just because he has the balls to do whatever he feels like. It's not great. Speaking of GMs, Dave Gettleman is a disgustingly bad one. He doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
If he screws up this draft, I might drive back to New York just to throw something through his window, be it tomatoes, whatever. I mean, Draft Day is my favorite movie of all time. We better have some Draft Day magic. We hold 6, 17, and 37. We need to do something to get some high value out of those picks.
Because those are good picks.
Yep, absolutely. Well, I mean, we'll be back here next week.
Same time, same place.
Next week is the day of the draft, so despite playoffs, half of the show is going to be playoffs, half of it is going to be NFL draft.
Yeah, it's going to be
we're going to go
exciting.
It is. I mean, This is going to be a good defensive draft class. It's not going to be a great quarterback class, but you'll hear more from that next week. But from us here at BSPN at Bennington College, have a nice week, everyone.
Have a good
Watch the playoffs.
Watch the playoffs. Get ready for the draft, and we'll see you next week.
Yep.
Peace.
Bye.
Who don't know is